With more hair. So good morning, everyone. Very excited and humbled to be here. I don't prep. I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth. I am promising it's going to be good stuff. But very organic. I love to have conversations. So I am definitely not here to lecture or give you everything, because there's so much wisdom in the room. And I'll start by thanking Jeremy for considering me. And, we had talked about this collaboration last year sometime. And then, life, right? And so when it came back around and the topic was abundance, I was like, oh yeah, I know now why it didn't happen before. Because I did not understand abundance the way I do now when we first engaged. So I guess I want to start by asking, how are you all defining abundance? It doesn't have to be a dictionary definition, but you showed up for a reason. Like, maybe you come every month, but if the word or the concept of abundance drew you here, what was the draw? What does it mean? What are you thinking? Enough? Thank you, Julie.
Time.
So can you say a little bit more?
Well, so being retired, you have a little more abundance of time.
Okay. Gotcha.
Working the hard.
An aspect of abundance, time. Got it. Thank you. What else?
I'm still sitting with Madeline's metaphor of showing up to an ocean with a spoon.
Wasn't that powerful? I was like, so whatever I was going to say was going to change anyway, because as soon as Madeline talked, I was like, ooh, wee. So Madeline is inspiring so much of what's going to come, what's been stirring in me over the last 10 minutes. Yeah. So yeah, spoon, ocean. Like, let's just take a second to visualize that if you haven't already. Ocean. I'm a mermaid, by the way. I need the water, and here I am in Ohio, right? But I crave the ocean. And then think about a spoon. Think about the biggest spoon you have, and then the ocean, right? So that was so powerful. Anything else coming up for people when you think about abundance?
This ties into, the whole ocean metaphor really ties into how I think about abundance, which is really kind of through the wrong end of the telescope. It's the lack of scarcity. We think so much in terms of scarcity, like everything great there is in the world, and so many of us identify it as like a piece of a pie, and there's only so many pieces, and if we don't each of ours, nobody else can have some. It's really much bigger. It's more likely.
Thank you. Anyone? Yeah?
Yeah, maybe on that, abundance can also be part of an exchange. In the way that when you give something, what comes back, and what is that exchange that happens in the abundance of giving and receiving beyond your
Yes, thank y'all. Okay. So, what's your name, if you mind? Tom. Thank you. We are swimming in a culture that functions solely based on our participation in scarcity. Can you think about that? Capitalism does not function if we do not swim in the currency of scarcity. White supremacy culture, patriarchy, homophobia, transphobia, all of it functions, and it is dependent upon our reliance on scarcity. Because when we're not scarce, we stop buying shit. Can you think about that? when there's not the next thing that's gonna make you ... you stop buying stuff. Then it starts to crumble. If there is not an ideal image of humanity that someone has created, we stop trying to achieve that one thing. The systems crumble. So there is a benefit in us not understanding abundance because we stay in scarcity. It helps the systems that are functioning continue to function, right? So let that land. Might not have been new for you, but I am aware that sometimes I say things that your body be like, hold on, don't just keep talking. And I'm getting better at that. I just keep going and I look out and I'm like, oh, okay, my bad. Let me give you a second. So just allow your body to feel into that, right? And I say that without judgment. I don't say that to condemn myself or you or our participation in it. I just say it so we can be aware, so we can think about it. I'm not giving you anything that I want you to just take because I'm giving it. I'm just offering something for you to consider, right? So over the this particular practice is only a few weeks old, but I have woken every morning, and if I forget in the morning, sometime throughout the day, my partner will remind me. I have asked myself probably for 3 weeks straight, how will abundance find me today? It's just an inquiry. I don't try to predict. I don't try to make it happen. I simply ask, how will abundance find me today? And what I have found is that since asking that, I have yet to come upon a day where I don't find ways that abundance has found me. So in one way, what are we looking for? What are we open to? What we are open to finds its way to us. But if we don't understand, know, articulate that openness, sometimes it passes us by. The thing about abundance is it doesn't require our belief in it to exist. Let me say that again. Abundance does not require our belief in it, our participation with it, our acknowledgement to exist. It simply exists. It's like the ocean. My children, unfortunately, have yet to see the ocean. I have a 13-year-old and a 6-year-old. 2 6-year-olds. I got 2. There are 2 of them. That came out, I was like, that sounds different. Oh, I say that a lot. Why did that sound different? Because you got 2. Abundant. So, they've yet to see the ocean in person. I was 19 before I saw the ocean. I was born and raised in Detroit. Saw the lake. All of them, we're surrounded by lakes, rivers, but I'd never seen the ocean until I was 19. So, Madeline, when you mentioned the ocean and my connection with it, I was like, ooh, I'm so glad she was asked to speak. And I was in college, I sang in choir, we were on tour. And the first time I saw the ocean, I just remember standing there in awe. Sheer awe. I have no idea how long I was standing there. It was something about the horizon meeting the sky. It was just like this thing that was like, oh, like, it was so big. I couldn't tell where it stopped. I couldn't see where it stopped. It went on forever. And while I would not connect with the awareness of abundance that I have now back then, it was a seed that got planted. Something exists in this world that humans did not create, that still exists and goes on forever, it seems. Growing up in Detroit, I had never experienced that. And so when I think about standing in front of that ocean, it's when I realized that somewhere down the line, without my consent, someone traded my tail as a mermaid for speaking abilities, charisma, and the ability to really love people. And I thought that was pretty unfair. because no one asked. I would have much preferred my tail. I wanted to just live in it. I did not want to leave it. It was just so abundant. Traveling years forward, had my twins in 2016, and somewhere in their young age, probably around 1, they start really liking this show called Octonauts. Anybody ever heard of Octonauts? All right, okay. Their attraction to this show was absolutely ridiculous. It's like you try to turn on something else, they weren't having it. For their first birthday pictures, we took them to get their pictures taken. And they were the only way they would come down to take pictures if we just played the Creature Report, which is just like this little section of the show that sums it up on repeat. And it was like wild. But I learned a lot about the ocean by watching Octonauts because it was always on. And it is fascinating. It's a really good show. Like, legit, you don't need kids. Like, Octonauts, it's on Netflix. It's really good. And I would just learn about different creatures in the ocean and everything. And then there is something called the Midnight Zone. Have y'all heard of the Midnight Zone?
Oh, yeah.
So the Midnight Zone is the deepest part of the ocean where no light shines. Right? So there are layers to the ocean. And the Midnight Zone is where no light shines. Now, there are creatures in the Midnight Zone that are uniquely created to emanate light because there is no light down in the Midnight Zone. And there have been times when creatures have gotten lost and floated up to other parks, and the Octonauts figure it out. They got to take them back to the Midnight Zone and things. And so that also watered the seed that had been planted when I was about 19 years old. There is so much life in the ocean. I learned about whales and sharks and like all these things. And then here's the show. Every episode is saying there's more. And then helping you understand the function of this creature and what it does in its habitat. And it's like, yo, man, the ocean is abundant. So I start to think, I'm attracted to the ocean, I love the ocean. What does that help me understand about abundance? And one of the things that I'm kind of allowing to sit is, I may never understand fully how abundant the world is. And I had to be okay with that. We live in a culture that tells us we need to know. So go figure it out. Sometimes we get pieces of paper after many years and a lot of money of figuring some things out. And then we get that piece of paper only to find out that that was only a portion of it. And if you want to know more, pay more money, right? When Madeline said, I teach at UC, but I only get to teach at UC what I learned at UC. How's that hitting your body? Because I'm gonna tell you, it hit mine. I teach at UC, but I can only teach at UC what I learned at UC. That ain't abundant. An institution intentionally saying, oh yeah, come teach what we taught you. Or what we know here. Here can be UC, Cincinnati. Here can be the US. Here can be Western civilization. And yet, did y'all eat that food? They ain't teach her that at UC. Okay? I know they didn't teach her that at UC. Look at how much they're missing out on by limiting. But it's not just them. Look at how much the young people who come to learn from her are missing out, right? So I'm gonna give us a second to just allow our imaginations to wander. And for a second, think, what might I be missing out on? Just for a second. What might I be missing out on? I invite that inquiry not to lead you to scarcity. Oh no. But allow that to be a small opening in a window that can lead you to abundance. I can't talk to you about my relationship with abundance without talking to you about my relationship with scarcity. And pivotal, things to know about my relationship with scarcity can be summed up in a few stories. So I grew up in Detroit. I grew up as an only child. I have older siblings, but they're so much older than me that I was an only child. My parents, we lived in the city of Detroit, around the corner from Central High School, and high schools are kind of geographically labeled. And my parents did not trust the public education. I don't even know if that was from an education standpoint. I definitely know it was from like more of a safety, social standpoint. So my parents made a lot of financial sacrifices to send me to a private school. Private schools at that time in the 80s were Catholic schools. We were not Catholic, but I went to the Catholic school, kindergarten to 12th grade. And my dad he liked to go on rides. And so what that means is we would just get in the car and he would drive. And very quickly you learn not to ask where are we going. Because the response is sit back and enjoy the ride. And for some of that, I'm grateful because I built a capacity for surrender. So one point, my journey in relationship with abundance is not possible without surrender. I won't make that declaration for you, but I am going to suggest trying it out. There is something about, now when I say surrender, I'm going to take you back to the ocean. Because when I saw the ocean for the first time, it was in Florida in January. So it's not like it was real warm, right? So I couldn't frolic the way I really, really wanted to, but I love floating. I'm pretty buoyant. That's a good thing. I don't sink. I just lay on top of the water. Until I can get to the ocean, I go to float tanks. Have y'all ever been to a float tank? Give me all the sensory deprivation there is. And I just float. When I find myself struggling with surrender, I go floating. Because it is an act of surrender. And so I learned, the seed of surrender was planted for me as a child. Going on rides, back seat, sometimes the front seat. It's wild now that my 13-year-old is just now able to sit in the front seat. And I'm like, kid, I feel like I was born in the front seat of a car. Like, strap you in and go. So things are very different. There were no boosters. This is all new. But whether I was in the front seat or the back seat, I learned surrender because I couldn't control where the car was going. I also didn't have a choice about being in it. So I allowed myself to simply surrender to the journey. And so when we went on rides, it was not uncommon for my dad to take me out to a place called St. Clair Shores. In order to get to St. Clair Shores, you had to drive through our neighborhood, go through downtown Detroit, and then you would get to this space where literally the grass was greener on the other side. It was not figurative. You just look and you go, whoa, this is a lot different than where we live. And it was along the Detroit River, so there were lots of boats docked and harbors, country clubs, golf courses, and really, really big houses that never had window coverings on the front. Like you just see in, right? That was not a thing in our house. You ain't seen, close them curtains, right? You get out to this place and you like, I can see like they life. But what you saw were baby grand pianos, all these different things. There was not a lot of talking that happened on these trips, but that didn't stop me from absorbing the messages. One message, I can do and be anything I want. I understood that implicitly from my dad. He never had to say it directly. I just got it. In my recent years, I've been reflecting on that relationship, and what I've realized is my dad gifted me audacity. It is a gift that got hidden and covered, but lately I'm like, hold on. I went 18 years without realizing I lived in oppressed identities. I knew I was Black, but I didn't know how the world perceived Black people. I can be and do anything I want to. The audacity to embody that as a child in this country, that is a gift. Wow, an abundant gift. Now, another message I absorbed is this is what success looks like. But that ain't a problem because I can be doing anything I want. Oh, here's the thing. It's directly connected with whiteness. The identity of it, the ideal of it, not words. I didn't understand it in words. I just got it. Okay. All right. My dad would VHS tape Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. No joke. This is a real thing. Comes on TV, pop in the VH, and he records it. Did he go back and rewatch them? I have no idea. I do not know. There are only two things that I know that he was adamant on recording. Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous and the O.J. Simpson trial. Okay? It's a real thing. I don't know the purpose. It's just what it was. So it's not that I would have to watch this with him, but I was aware. I never sat down and watched a full episode. I know, I feel like I should hear Robin Lynch's voice in my sleep, but passing by, and it's just like this life, right? So I absorbed a few messages just in how my father engaged with the world. One, I can be anything and do anything that I want. Success is attached directly to this idea or perception of whiteness, and it's over there. I went to school 15 minutes away from home, which in Detroit, you can pretty much get anywhere in about 15 minutes from where I lived. I was pretty central if you're talking West Side. And the only thing I did in my house was sleep. I went to school 15 minutes away. All of my friends were more proximate to that area, so if I played with friends, it was over there. My father took me to the library every Wednesday because it stayed open until 9 p.m. We went to the museum. He created all these experiences for me. What he didn't do was travel around affluent Black neighborhoods in Detroit. That wasn't it. The museums were never the African American museum. It was all, he wanted me to have a cultured experience, and that culture just didn't look like ours. And so I began to absorb this idea that abundance, I didn't have that word. I didn't have the word abundance, but think of the visceral experience of abundance. I always knew it existed, but I always knew it wasn't where I was. It didn't look like I looked, and I'd have to work really, really hard somehow to get there. And so I lived a life of constantly seeking how to get there, how to achieve that. And I'm never gonna look the part, but I can sound the part. I can speak the King's English real good. I can write it well. And there were parts of me that I can look back on now and go, they started to fall away, right? So things that were inherently me, but didn't look like that image, tuck that away, put that away, right? So now I want us to come to this year, the year of 2022. I hit this period of time that I now call the tunnel. So I'm a therapist by license. I'm a liberatory coach. Really, I'm a soul hugger. That's what I do. That's my essence. And I have a private practice. Springtime, without warning, things just blew up. Like, I had 8 new client consultations in a week when I would normally have 3 in a month. And I'm like, okay. And it was actually overwhelming because it got to a point where I'm like, it's more of y'all than this time on my calendar. And nobody was saying, no, this ain't gonna fit. They're like, where do I sign up? And I'm like, okay, all right, well, here's the one. I had to take new client consultations off of my off of my website. I had to just tell people there is literally a chance that you might have to wait 6 weeks just to get in. And they're like, we'll wait. Just like, oh my goodness. Okay. At this point, people, my calendar looked and felt scarce. So what happens when things feel scarce? Think back to the beginning of the pandemic and toilet paper. That's what people do when things feel scarce. Literally. People just start putting things on my calendar because people, top 5 things I hate in the world, managing the calendar. Are you free this day? No, that doesn't work for me. How about that? If I have to go through that kind of exchange, I would rather just, So people book their own stuff. And people start booking and booking. And in about April, I got a booking for January 2023. And I said, oh no. I just remember saying, 2 weeks ago, we did not know that Russia was going to invade Ukraine. How am I supposed to know what my life looks like in 2023? Like, this is too much. But I'm working, I'm doing the thing. I'm all the things that they say you should be when you own a business. I'm busy. I got a lot of things coming in. I got income coming, all the things. Yet what I noticed is that did not feel like the ocean. I had all the things. I had the bookings, I had the clientele, I had the money, I had all that stuff, and yet I had never felt so scarce in what I can remember. And I'm telling y'all, I've had some really lean times, okay? Yet I felt trapped. But I keep working it, and then get to about June, and then this inexplicable thing happened. Everything dried up. Like, I still can't explain it. It ain't like, what do you mean? All of a sudden, I had like 3 clients a week. And the first couple of weeks, I was like, whoo, good. Rest, breathe, paint, do the things that fill me up. By the 3rd week, I'm like, I think I've painted enough. I feel full. You know what I'm saying? What's going on? That lasted for 5 months. When I'm saying, no, I'm telling y'all, contracts I've had for years just didn't renew. No inquiries. New client conversations are back on my website, by the way. Hey, we're back, got room. Income dried up. Inquiries dried up. I am the sole financial provider for my family of 5. There is no fallback. And so during this period, what I realized though is it didn't feel like other hard financial times have felt in the past. One thing I noticed is I wasn't worried. Weird. I sat with, shouldn't I be worried? And my nervous system said, no, it's okay. What we doing? So I have this relationship with the divine where I feel like I'm their comic relief. We have very interesting conversations. And I do have this one thing. So if I haven't been in the grocery store in about 3 years. It's not pandemic related. It is just a place where people are dependent on food for survival and it gets crazy in there. My nervous system can't take it. So my partner does all the grocery shopping. But when I had to grocery shop, there was a rule. I don't care how much I bought, it's coming in on one trip. Okay? So I got twins, so I am really good with carrying a lot of things. That is very metaphorical. I got a lot of childhood trauma too. So I'm taking it all in one swoop. We ain't making 2 trips. So I hit this tunnel. You know what I said to the divine? We ain't making 2 trips. So whatever I gotta learn, let me learn it because I ain't trying to come back here, okay? So however long I gotta stay, I need every lesson you want for me, but I trust that there are lessons, right? So I go through what I now call the tunnel. And instead of putting the energy where it would normally go, what we gonna do? How we gonna? I went, what am I learning in this moment? And that has been some of the most abundant time of my life. Being able to call myself a soul hugger, which I think it encapsulates me, that came in the tunnel. I had space to listen. I do a lot of talking, but I tried to do as much listening. I had time to listen to friends and trusted folks. I had time to listen to myself. What are some of the things I'm saying to myself? I spent time listening to my heartbeat. When was the last time you listened to your heartbeat? Because if you still yourself enough, you can hear it. I listen to my heartbeat. I listen to the laughter of my children who are teaching me how to play, because I didn't get to play as a child. I listen to music. Despite having one, I did not listen to podcasts. I don't know what the block is. It's just not there for me. But I listen to these things. And I was taken back to that ocean. There is so much out there. I realized that in the tunnel, I was able to understand and articulate that the Christianity that had been given to me wasn't vast enough to encapsulate all of my spiritual experiences. So that I began to chop up those experiences and put them in the little boxes that they gave me, but there's more. Abundance doesn't mean I know all the stuff. It means that I'm curious. Second thing you need for abundance, curiosity. The combination for me of surrender and curiosity has led me to know it's such a vast, abundant space. So when I ask every morning, how will abundance find me today? It always finds me. What I realized that it had been trying to find me my whole life, but I hadn't been aware at what was actually coming. And so my relationship with abundance right now is that I have the audacity to believe that everything I need and desire is coming from me. I've been taught my whole life, go get it. Seek it out. Find a way. It's over there. And what I realize now is I am a magnet to everything that is for me, if I just sit still long enough for it to reach me. We are taught that time, what's your name? Dan said time is abundant. I said somebody need to come spend some time with Dan, because everywhere I go, people are saying time is scarce. What's today's date? How many to the end of the year? How much it's Friday. It's all these things that would suggest like there's not enough. So anytime I'm with someone, especially if they are in this urgent energy, because 2021 was my year of divorcing urgency. It was a messy divorce, y'all. Urgency wanted everything I worked for. It wanted me to pay spousal support. It wanted me to pay child support. It wanted everything from me. And that divorce was messy. So I had to do things like when I only had 40 minutes to speak, tell myself, take your time. Time is abundant. When someone comes to meet with me and they're like, let's get to it. And I was like, no, let's breathe. And when they say, I don't have time, I say, we're going to breathe twice as long. They stop saying that. They do. They just come in like, come on, let's breathe. I'm like, yes. There we go. Let's breathe. They started before me. I'm like, no, you're rushing. Right? When we take that breath, though, it opens us up. And when they want to jump to it, I stop with, what'd you have for breakfast this morning? What'd you have for dinner last night? Right? Until they get to the point of like, oh, right? Time is abundant. And you know what? I haven't had one person leave like, that felt unfulfilling. No. They leave like, whoa. Most of the time, we don't even talk about what they came in to talk about. Because for me, scarcity, urgency, they don't need a microphone. They're being piped out of every speaker in our world. They don't get a microphone in this space, right? It's abundant. Let's talk. So I'm grateful. Like I sit here and I go, I've said the word a lot. Hopefully I've encapsulated, right? I told you I had no idea what was gonna come out of my mouth. I said some things. I'm last. It was writing it down. I'm like, I might need your notes because when I know I'm in the flow, I have no idea what I said. And when my partner is here and somebody had to get the kids to school, it's always helpful because I literally will say, give me a recap. So is this video? Perfect. Because I'm like, I saw some laughter and engagement. This was good stuff. I have no idea. I couldn't, when people are like, can you say that last part again? I'm like, sorry. Fresh off the presses, I don't know. But that I live in enough abundance that trusts that I'm not smart enough to give y'all what y'all needed. I live in the kind of abundance that said, I trust my connection to source, that everybody got something. I couldn't do that. I was conditioned to think that that was my job. I gotta be good at this. I have to perfect my oration skills. I gotta learn this and learn that and read this book. I don't read books. It's a whole other thing. We'll talk later. It's not bad. Books are like, I think this is my working analogy. For most people, reading is like beer. Chug, 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 give me more. I can take it. For me, it's a shot glass of 100 proof liquor. A little bit does me for a long time. I can read a paragraph and run off that paragraph for months. So to say I don't read is not fair. I'm just reading like 25 books, one paragraph at a time right now. But I was told that was the way. You read all the books, you do all the things. And I did that for a really long time. I got to the epitome of my dad would be proud. I live in a white suburb. I built the house. I'm an entrepreneur, and yet I felt so scarce. I would like to think he would be even more proud that I found a way to unburden myself from all the well-intended things he gave me to carry, but no longer serve me. And so now I trust that if I just come and show up in my full essence, surrendered and curious, abundance will do the rest. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for LaShonda before we wrap up?
I would just like to say that everybody knows that talk was abundant. Because you took us through oceanography, you took us to church, you took us to therapy. Yeah, I mean, you did a beautiful job and your flow, like, you said so much. So thank you, really, super inspiring.
Thank you.
Really wonderful.
I appreciate that. I have a friend who says, spending time with Shanda is like going to the comedy club, church, and therapy.
That's
I love that.
Yeah.
What brought you from Detroit to Cincinnati?
Oh, that's a good one. I worked well. A relationship.
Okay.
A relationship brought me here. By the time the relationship was over, this was as much home as Detroit had been. So I never had a desire to go back to Detroit, so I just kind of stayed. But yeah, that's what I jokingly say. I mean, what brings people to Cincinnati? Work and relationships. Yeah. And then we get here and we like, I'll stay. This is a nice community. I'll contribute. So yeah, that's what brought me. Sorry if I was No, listen. The question was, do I do comedy?
Maybe it's an ocean that boarding is
Taking all that ocean.
Yeah. We need to get a cruise boat on the comedy line.
I tried to intentionally be funny one time. Like, I was like, ooh, I'm gonna be funny. Bomb, so bad. And I was like, I am never doing that again. But people are like, you're so funny, you're so funny. And I'm like, but I'm never gonna try to be funny. And the more serious I am, the more people would laugh. And so I realized that there is comedy within me. And I think it balances out the fact that I'll drop something heavy on you real quick. But I don't want you to stay in that place, so there's a way to bring you up. And it's not intentional. People ask me that, and I'm like, yeah. No. Like, I can't watch stand-up comedy because I get anxious. Like, I watch and I be like, I can't. Like, I watch a little bit and I'm like, no, because of that one experience. So that's pretty funny. But I just find that we need, you know, a little bit of sugar helps the medicine go down. Yeah. And I bring a lot of medicine, and a lot of sugar is necessary within that. But the ocean, I'm still open and curious and surrendering to the time where it's revealed to me why, like, I'm for real, like, my ancestors must have been mermaids. It's the only, like, the draw I have. It's not like, oh, it's nice. BJ, I want to go to the Rio. It's just like, it's calling me. So sometime in the new year, before I go back to work, I have been divinely told that if I don't get in water, I won't be prepared. So I'm going to find some water before January 17th. Yeah. I really just came. I came to hug Daniel. I feel bad. There are people who can't see, and it was like, oh, I'm still on. My bad. So, anything else?
All right. I want to thank you.
Yes, it's been so great.